Alright, so now that we are done with the core concepts of a coil, I think that the next thing for us to do right now is to take a look at post request, which is one of the requests that we have within coil. We have post, we have get, we have put, and we have delete requests. But we're going to start off with a post request. And if you don't know what post request is, a post request normally allows us to add a new data to the API or server. And in doing that, such a data gets added to the endpoint. And if you don't know what an endpoint is, we're going to kind of explain that right now. So let's check the next slide. An endpoint is a specified address within an API that contains some predefined information. And what that means is that every API has some endpoints that normally kind of perform a particular task. Let's say, for instance, that within Paystack we have an endpoint that is called something like customers. The name customers kind of tells us, or the endpoint customers tells us that this is where one have to create a proper customers within Paystack. You will have to have a customer created before you can make transactions. Okay, so that is just what that is. Most often, the name of the endpoints that they normally have a kind of correspond to the functionality that that particular endpoint provides. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. Most of those endpoints that are within some APIs, their name normally a kind of showcase what they do. For example, the one I just gave you about customers within Paystack, that is just an endpoint that is going to help you create customers. And the one that normally call it transaction initialization endpoint is going to help you initialize transactions. Okay, that is just what I mean by that. And yeah, so the next thing that we're going to take a look at right now will be how to make a post request. Okay, so if you want to make a post request, there are just a few things that you could do. Number one is to specify the endpoint that you want to make a request to. Number two is to create or gather the data that you want to send to the server. Okay, this could be gathered through a form or whatever means that you want to do that. You can hard code the data if you like, but if you want to kind of capture them from a form, you can also do that. And this is just about post request, which is going to allow you to capture data from a form. And then the next thing that you are going to do is to go ahead and initialize the coil after you have gathered the data that you are going to make use of. You can go ahead and initialize coil and then configure the coil properly. Alright, and that has to do with a kind of placing the constants, the right places that they should be. And the last one right here is to go ahead and run or execute your code. That is the last thing that we have right here. And if we move further down here, we're going to have to see practicals. Alright, so we're going to move on now and demonstrate what we have just talked about. Alright, so if you go back to our development environment right now, we're going to have to create a new file right here, which I'm going to just call post. But before I do that, I don't know whether you remember this folder that we have right here. We have a folder called a coil, which I've actually shown you in the first part of the video, which is this particular folder. That is what we have there. We have opened in that place, and we have only one file right there, which is coil.php. So what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and create a second file right there, and I'm going to just go ahead and call this post. Let's call that a post.php. That is the file that we're going to create right now. And before we go ahead and write any code right here, let me explain some certain things from an endpoint that we're going to use right now. Okay, so I want you guys to move on to paystack.com right now and create a free account. So go to paystack.com and create a free account, and once you get a free account created, you're going to have an interface that looks like this. You may not have some money already within your dashboard, but you're going to have an interface that has all of these features, especially when you have a kind of validated or verified your account. So there is a free account that you can create with them. It's called a free business account, or a free personal account. Just go ahead and create that. But if you have a business, your business registered, you can go ahead and create their business account, and you have an interface that looks like this. And once you have that, the first thing that I would like you to take a look at right now will be this place that it says customers. I'm going to click on that right now and open that up. and this table is going to kind of showcase all the customers that you are going to create. Anytime you create a customer, the customer is going to come in, the customer email will come in, the customer full name will come in, and then the phone number, which is what we are going to do in this form. And the ones I have here right now, I created them in such a way that I did not go through the customer creation endpoint. I did this through what we call transaction initialization endpoint, and that is why full name is not here and phone number is not right here. We are going to learn how to properly configure that so that full name will come in and phone number, and even the email address which we have right here. So with that being said, it means that you can create a customer with just an email. If you don't have a full name or phone number, that's okay. So the prerequisite is to go ahead and use an email. And yeah, so that is it. So the next thing that I would like to click on right now would be to go to transactions. I think we don't really need these transactions right now. We're going to kind of deal with that as we move along. We're going to kind of do something with that, but we really do not need to go to that place now. And the next place that I would like us to go now is to go to this link that says settings. So I'm going to click on settings right now and open that up. Alright, so once the settings page opens up, I want you guys to go to API keys and webhooks, and I'm going to explain some certain things right there to you right now. So once you have this particular part of the web page opened right now, if you look at this page, we'll have some kind of keys or two sets of keys right here. The first one is called the live secret key, which is really a kind of a hidden right now. If you want to see it, you can click on this particular eye icon and you can go ahead and enter your password. Once your password is valid, it can go ahead and review your secret key for you. And the next one is the one we'll call a public key, live public key. And the difference between this live secret key and that of the live public key is that if you are using a server-side programming language like PHP, as we are doing in this part, you're going to have to make use of this particular one. But if you are using something like a JavaScript or HTML alone, we are going to have to make use of this one. So you can click on this and then to copy that. But what we're doing right now is that we are using PHP, which means that we're going to have to use the secret key instead of the public key. But we are not going to need this particular one right now because there is something called the test mode and the live mode that Paystack normally have. And if you look up right here, we're going to see that this button is toggled to a test mode right now. Alright, so in that case, since we're still testing our application, we're not going to have to use our live secret key. We're going to have to leave it to test secret so that we can make use of our test secret key. And if we want to make use of our test secret key right now, we need to scroll down to the section, and that section is right here, as you can see. So this is the API configuration test mode, and that's where we are right now. So if we're going to make use of these, we're going to have to make use of this test secret key instead of a live secret key, or the text public key if we're using JavaScript. So because we're using PHP, I'm going to have to copy this particular one. That will be what I need to copy right now. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and it says copied, and that is the key that I'm going to make use of in this integration. But anytime you switch to live mode, we're going to have to come back, scroll up to the top, and you take this particular one. And you may be wondering, why am I using the test secret key? The reason that I'm using that is because it provides an environment where we have to test this application without having to use real money. Okay, so all the testing that we're going to be doing is going to be allowing us to do the testing without using our real money to do the testing. And if you want to switch to live mode, you can do that right here. Once I click here right now, in fact, let me do that so that you understand. We're going to see that this is going to turn to live mode. And as you can see, that has been switched to live mode. So it's on live mode right now. So any type of testing you want to do right now, we're going to have to use real money to do that. So I'm going to go back to test mode right away, because that's the mode we need to be in order to do the testing without having to use real money. Alright guys, so let's take a look at the documentation page. So this is the documentation page. You need to go to paystack.com/docs/API/ this particular site right here. And I want to talk about something right now. You see, anytime you want to make use of an API, pretty much every standard APIs out there, they normally have what we call documentation. And a documentation is just it's just an information that the merchant or the API vendor are going to provide for you in order to help you integrate their application to your own app successfully. That's what this page is talking about right now. And if you look at it, they really have a detailed documentation ranging from authentication errors. Right down here we have the endpoints, which we've really talked about, the API endpoint. The first endpoint we have here is transactions, and the next one is transaction split, and after that we have customers, and so on and so forth. So we're going to start off with customers right now. We could start with transactions. That's a kind of enabling payment immediately, but I want it to be very proper. Every customer or every transaction that we make must have a customer full name before we can go ahead and make any transaction valid. So what I'm going to do right now is to click on the customers link right here, and that should scroll up to the section, and here we are. So this is a customers section right now, and you can take your time to read this documentation to see what they're talking about. So if you look at it, they say the customers API allows you create and then manage customers on your integration. So that's what we're trying to do in this particular example. And if you look at it further, the first thing that I want to show you right now is the endpoint, the URL to the endpoint. So if you look at this side of the screen, we're going to see this particular link right here. This link is just the link that is a kind of is the link to the API, the endpoint. That's what I mean to say. This is the link that leads to the customer creation endpoint. If you take that, you go ahead and then create whatever application that you want to create concerning the customer creation. Alright, and then as far as the headers that they're going to need is concerned, they're going to first of all need what we call the authorization key. And this authorization key is just talking about the secret key that I just copied before now. And after that, you have to set the content type to application JSON /JSON. And for the body parameters, we're going to need an email. We're going to need a full name, last name, and lastly, we're going to need a phone number. So if you click here, we should be able to see the phone number field and even the metadata for some other things that you could do. We're not going to do that yet on this part, but I will create a video on and then illustrate how to do this. So the first thing that we need to do, or the next thing that we need to do right now, is to go ahead and let's go back to our development environment and see how we can put a code that will help us create a proper customer right now. Alright, I'm going to throw in my PHP tag right here. And within this place, the first thing that I want to do right now, let me go ahead and paste the secret key that I copied. So I'm going to put that like a comment and paste that. So this is my test secret key. I want it to just be there. So now, if you look at the steps that we already outlined before now, so the first thing that we need to do is to specify the endpoint that we want to make a request to. And to do that is really very simple. I'm going to go ahead and put that in a variable. So I'll create a variable right here. I'll call that URL. And I'm going to get the URL that I want to make a request to. So in this case, that's going to be the URL that I just showed you before now, which is the URL to the endpoint, this particular one. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. That's https :/api.pastag.co/customer. That's the endpoints URL. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that right here. And if you have not written any line of PHP before, what this means is that I'm trying to save what is in these strings inside of this place. So this is basically a container, and in PHP they call that a variable. So this is a variable. Alright, so the next thing that I want to do right now is to go ahead and create an array of data that I would like to send to the server. In this case, the server is going to be the customer creation endpoint. So I'm going to put a comment here and say something like, let's say gather the data to be sent to the endpoint. And to do that is really very simple. I'm going to just kind of go ahead and create that like an array. And to create that like an array, I want to go ahead and put that in a variable, which I'm going to just call data. And in creating an array, I can just say something like array like this, and I can go ahead and then do whatever that I want to do within this array. But I'm going to just use the square bracket right there. So we can also create an array by using a square bracket like this. And I should go ahead and terminate this line right now with a semicolon. And within this place, this is where I'm going to go ahead and create some other fields that I want, or all the fields that I want. And in our own case, I think I've already shown you that. Let me show you that again. Talking about the body parameters, we're going to need an email. We need a first name, last name, phone number. So to kind of capture all of these, we need to represent them right here. So I'm going to just say, so the first one that I'm going to need now is an email. So I'm going to just say email, and I'm going to just use an arrow. And right here, what I'm going to do right now is just say, I'm going to just say something like ATR Emmanuel 64 at gmail.com, and I'm going to introduce a comma right here since I still have some other ones that I have not created. And then the next thing that I need is going to be a first name, and this is how they wrote it. So this is going to be a first name. And to create the first name, I'm going to go ahead and put that right here. So let's say that the first person's first name is going to be this particular name right here, and I'm going to introduce a comma right here, and then on the next line I'm going to create the last name. So this is going to be last underscore name, and I'm going to go ahead and then put that right here. So let's say that the person's last name is going to be Emmanuel, and the last thing that we're going to do right now will be the phone. So to put the phone number, we're going to just do that and go ahead and put the person's phone number right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put my own phone number. So this is going to be 47164748, and I'm not going to include a comma because this is the last item of the array. So what I'm going to do right now is to get out of this square bracket and continue my configuration. So what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and create what we call a coil session. So I'm going to just say create cURL session, and to do that is really very simple. I'm going to just go ahead and put that in a variable, and the variable that we're going to create right now is going to be called coil, and it doesn't have to be coil. You can use any other name. I forgot that we've used this before, but it doesn't really hurt to make use of that again. Alright, so I'm going to just use the function called a coil underscore init like that, and I'm going to go ahead and pass in the variable that we have here, which is called a URL in this case. I'm going to just copy the URL and then paste that right here because that really needs that. And the next thing that I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and then configure the sessions based on the type of a request that we want to make. So I'm going to put a comment here and say something like configure the cURL session based on the type of request that I want to make. So I'm going to stop that at that place. So how do I set the configuration? In doing that, we've looked at this function before, which was called a coil underscore setups. This particular function, that's what we're going to use in the configurations. So I'm going to go ahead and pass in all the parameters that I need. So the first one that I need right now is going to be this particular coil. So I'm going to need this. So I'll copy that, and that will be the first item or the first parameter that I need right there. And I'm going to introduce comma, and the next thing that I need is to go ahead and then bring in the a constant, and the constant in this case is going to be call-out. This is going to be call-out underscore return transfer, and finally I'm going to just go ahead and set that to true. And if you don't know what this line is going to do for us, this line is going to help whatever that we have gotten from coil to be sent to us instead of just echoing that out. And then that is just that for that line. So the next configuration that I'm going to do right now is to decide the type of request that I want to make, and to do that is still going to be based on this particular line. So I'm going to copy from here. I'll just copy that and then paste that right here, and I'm going to put a comment at the top right here. So let me just say something like, so we're going to just go ahead and say, let's say decide that this is a post request. So we're going to make a post request. So we're going to kind of decide the kind of request that we need right now. And to do that, we're going to just say cURL opt, that's call opt, and that is going to be underscore, and we're going to just say post. So with that line, we've really kind of told the script that this is going to be a post request, and I'm going to introduce a comma right there. And the next thing that I'm going to do right now is to include a boolean value called true right there. So this is going to be called true, and it has another value called false. If we are not doing if we are not setting this as a post request, we could go ahead and set that to false. But because this is going to be a post request, we're going to go ahead and set it to a boolean value true. And you can use something like 1 right here. 1 means true and 0 means false. So but I'm going to just go ahead and leave that as true. Okay, so that is just that for that line. And the next thing that I would like to set right now is to go ahead and convert the request to a JSON data. And to do that is really very simple. What I'm going to do right now, let me put a comment right here and say something like convert the request data to a JSON. This is going to be a JSON data, just like that. And to do that is really very simple. I'm going to still have to copy this and paste it right here, and this is going to be the algorithm or the constant that we're going to need right now is going to be call opt. So this is going to be cORLOPT, which is call opt underscore post fields, and the next thing or the next parameter that we need right now is going to be called a JSON. So we're going to just say JSON underscore and code, and that's really a function. So we're going to, within the function, pass in this variable that we have up here. Where is it? This particular variable. So this is going to be what? This is going to be called the data. So I'm going to go ahead and grab onto that and paste it right here, and we can go ahead and close the last bracket right here, and we'll go ahead and terminate that particular line. And that is that for the kind of trying to convert the request data to a JSON. And then the next thing that we need right now is to go ahead and set the headers. And to set the headers is really very simple. So I'm going to just say set the API, let's say API headers. And to do that, what I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to still have to make use of this. So this is going to be, I'm going to copy this line and paste it right here. And what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and change this particular, I'm going to change post field from post field to HTTP header. This is going to be HTTP header, and that is just that. So the next thing, so I'm going to just, and then introduce a comma, and the next thing that I'm going to do right now is to create an array, and I can use a square bracket right there. A square bracket to create an array. I'm going to make use of quite a few things right here, and we should close this particular bracket right here. You see this bracket? We need to go ahead and close that down here, and if we close that, we can go ahead and immediately terminate this line with a semicolon. And within this place, this is now the right time for us to start setting the headers. And the first thing that we need within the header is going to be the authorization, which in this case is this particular key that I copied before now. So I'm going to go ahead and put that right now. So I'm going to just say authorization, put a colon, and I'm going to copy this, copy that, or even cut it completely, cut that, so I don't need it again. I'm going to go ahead and paste that right here, and I'm going to put a comma and then select the next array or the next item. And the next item right now is going to be to send the content type, to just go ahead and set that to be equal to, let's set that colon, and that's going to be JSON underscore, application / JSON. So this is going to be application / JSON, just like that. So that will be the next item to have within this particular array that I have here. Alright, now the next thing that we're going to have to do now is to go ahead and run the coil. So we're going to just say run the coil, and with that, running the coil means executing that. Let me scroll up so that you guys can see everything that I'm doing. And to really run the coil is very simple. So I'll set a variable right now and say run, and variable, some people normally use something like result right here. If you use result, there is no problem. Okay, so but I'm going to go ahead and just say run right there, and then I'm going to go ahead and set that to a function called a cURL underscore exec, like that. And within this place, of course, you know the parameter that we need right now, which is going to be cURL, talking about where we initiated the call. So this is going to cURL, like that. So that will be the next thing that we need. Then finally, what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and let's go ahead and then close the coil. And to close the coil is really very simple. We're going to use the function called a cURL, and I should put a comment here also. Let me put a comment above. Let's just say close cURL session, and that is going to help free the memory. So the function that we're going to need is going to be underscore close, like that, and we should go ahead and pass in this coil. So it's going to be cURL, and if you don't know where I'm getting this coil from, this is really coming from up here. Let me show you that. This is really coming from this place, because this is where we initiated the coil underscore init. Okay, that's why I kept on passing in that particular variable all the time. So that is just that. With that line, we've really executed the coil, and I've just made a mistake right here. I wanted to close instead of executing, so that means I'm executing again. So this should be closed. This should be closed, guys, not cURL underscore exec this time around, but cURL underscore close. That is that. And yeah, so we've really executed that. And the next thing that we're going to do right now is if we run this code, if we save and run this code right now, and we check our, what is it called, if we go ahead and check our dashboard within Paystack, we're going to see that this particular email, in fact everything within this particular data, will be added to the customers table. Let's go back to that place again. Talking about coming to this particular customers table right now. Let's go there. Let's go there. If you look at the customers table, you discover that we don't really have that particular email or that person in this table right now. And if we go ahead and run the code, we should have that person added to this table, and that's going to be at the topmost of this particular page. Okay, but before we even do that, there can be a way of we seeing something returned from a Paystack that is going to be saved within this place. And to do that, let's go ahead and put that in a var dump to see an array of what is coming back from Paystack API. And I'm going to just say var dump underscore dump right there, and I'm going to go ahead and pass in this particular variable called the run. So this is going to be called the run. And if we save that, and let's go to our browser and let's access that file. But before you do that, remember that I'm using a what is it called, exam, and you should have it running already. If you don't have your own running, whether you are using XAMPP or WAMP or MAMP, whichever one you are using, just make sure that this particular line is running, the Apache is running, and you must be connected. I'm not going to run this. This is not going to return anything if I was offline. So as you can see, I'm connected right now. So let's go to a new tab, and I'm going to just say localhost. So this is going to be localhost /curl/posts.php. And if I hit enter right now, I guess I'm going to get an error, and I will tell you the reason why I'm going to get that error right now. So as you can see, we have false right here. But the reason why we're getting an error, we're not supposed to get a false anyway. But if we want to check whether it's going to kind of tell us what error that we have right now, we can go to, let's go to this place. Alright, so let's go ahead and add a few lines of error checking right here so that it will properly tell us what is wrong with our code. And let's put a comment here and say something like error checker, like that. And then we're going to just, first of all, let's create a variable that we're going to call let's call that error. And we're going to go ahead and use a function within a coil, that is a coil underscore ERR error, and we're going to go ahead and pass in the variable called cURL right there. And so that is just that. So we're going to use if statement now to output the error. So I'm going to just say something like if error. So if we already have an error, what do we want to do? I'm going to just use something like a die function right here, just to make things quick. And what I'm going to do right now is that we can still say something like a coil returned some errors, and I'm going to just concatenate until the error. So this is just going to go ahead and be, let's go ahead and pass in that error right there. So we're going to just say error, like that, and that is going to help us output whatever error that is right now. And if we save that and then we'll try again, so let's go back to our browser and then try again, and we'll have an error. The error says use of undefined constant cURL, assume the cURL online. This is line 34, and okay, so let's go back to line 34, and if you look at line 34 right now, okay, this should be a variable, not just a constant, but this should be the variable, the cURL variable. So I'm going to add $, right here, and if I save that and go back to the browser right now, if I refresh, that first two errors should be gone. Alright, so the error, the other error has been solved already, and this is the real error that I'm really expecting right now, which I kind of did it this way so that I can show you this particular error. And the reason that this error is really showing is because the Paystack API normally works in such a way that you must have a secure protocol. You must be connected to an SSL certificate before it can open or work for you. So for us not to have this particular API to always force over to HTTPS or SSL, searching for SSL certificate, there is a simple line of code that we can kind of write within our script that will help not force over to SSL certificate. And some people may tell you to go ahead and install a local issuer certificate. That is okay, but I figured out how to kind of do it in one line, and just by writing a simple line of code with coil, and then that will go ahead and turn that particular thing off. But if you're uploading that online, you need to do not include this line that I'm about to include right now, so that it will always push over to SSL. So let's go back to our development environment, and if I scroll up to the top of this page, right there where we initiated coil right now, so I'm going to put a simple line of code here, which I'm going to just say, let me put a comment first and say, let's say turn off mandatory SSL checker, like that. So that's a SSL checker. And down here, to really do that right now, let me just go ahead and copy this line of code, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it right here, and then I'll go ahead and modify. And to modify right now, what I need to change right now is to go ahead and change this. So this is going to be, alright, so we're going to change this to collapse underscore SSL. So this will be SSL underscore verify peer, like that. So this is what call-ups underscore SSL underscore verified pair, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this off instead of true. So this is going to be FALSE. So this is going to be false, like that. And if we go ahead and save this page right now, so this means that we are trying to make sure that it doesn't force us to go and check for SSL certificates. Okay, and if this were to be online, you should turn this to true. So this is going to be true right here, instead of forcing that to moving that to false. I'm going to take that back to false right now because we want to test that over our local machine. So we should go ahead and save this page, and if we go back and refresh this page right now, we should not have this error, and we should have something back to us from our paystack. And absolutely, this is really coming back from paystack right now. But if you look at this, it says that status is false. That means that something really went wrong, and they say the format is authorization bearer. So we made a mistake. We did not include this word bearer in front of our secret key. So I'm going to copy this. Let me copy that bearer right now, and if I go back to my development environment, and right there where I have my authorization, I'm going to go ahead and paste the word bearer right there, create a space right around that place, and then I'll go ahead and save this page. So if I go back right now, everything should now be working fine. And even before I refresh, if you think that what we have been doing now is working, it's really not working, because if you refresh this web page right now, I'm going to see that that particular person has not come in. Okay, so let's refresh and see. You see that that particular person has not come in. So it's only until we get it right before the customer will kind of come in. So I'm going to refresh this web page right now, and if everything worked fine, we are going to get status to be true. So it seems like everything worked fine right now. So our status is true, and the message says customer created. And if you look at the data right now, you're probably going to have everything that you need, like the customer is right there, the first name is right there, and the last name is right there, even the phone number is right here. Okay, so if we go back to our, what is it called, it's even went ahead and created a customer code for us. So basically everything you need to have create a proper customer will be done behind the scene for you. So if we go back to our dashboard right now and we refresh our web page, we should have that particular person properly created right now. Okay, so Emmanuel Atia will be created, or Atia, and I'm sorry if I didn't get the pronunciation of your name correct. Alright, and if you look at that right now, congratulations, that just came in. This is Atia Emmanuel 64@gmail.com. So this is the full name and this is the phone number. Okay, you see how beautiful that is. So that is just really how to create a proper customer. And up next, what we're going to be doing right now is let's go ahead and see how is it that we can modify this code for payment transaction right now, or to go to the initialization transaction endpoint. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this page right now, and if I create a new file, I'm going to call something. Let's just go ahead and call this pay.php. Okay, if you call that pay.php, that won't be bad at all. Alright, so let's open that up, and I'm going to go ahead and paste whatever I copied from post right now. I'm going to paste that right here. Okay, and I'm going to change quite a few things up, and the first thing that I'm going to need to change now will be this particular endpoint, and to change it to the payment page or the transaction initialization endpoint, let's get that from the documentation. So if I click on transactions right now, that should scroll up to the section where I have to work on the transaction. Alright, so as you can see, that just scrolled to the initialize transaction endpoint, and the endpoint that I need right now is this. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and go back to my development environment, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that right there. So this is transaction initialization endpoint. Then that is the endpoint within paystack. If you want to make payments, if you want customers to pay you, this is the endpoint that they're going to be using. Okay, that's the endpoint. And as far as the data or the requirements are concerned, let's take a look at that. I guess they just need an email and an amount. So if we scroll down to the headers are already in place. So we have this. I think we'll have this in place already. Talking about this particular authorization, and then that. So the next thing is to look at the body. So as far as the body parameter is concerned, we need only an amount and an email. So that's the two things that we need right now. And then to do that, if we go back to our development environment, I'm going to just take away first name, last name, and even the phone number. And I'm going to just go ahead and include an amount right here. So this is amount, and I'm going to set that to be equal to, let's say that the person is going to pay 100 naira, and I'm going to go ahead and multiply that by 100, and I have a reason for doing that. The reason that I'm multiplying this by 100 is because if I really want them to pay 100, this tag normally charge people in such a way that they divide this by 100 at the end of the day. So once they pick this 100, they're going to kind of divide it by 100 like this. Okay, so that's going to be divided by 100. So by the time they divide that, I want to take the result and multiply the result by 100 so that it will round up to the normal amount that I want them to really charge. Okay, and I should remove this. I should remove this semicolon. The next thing that I need right now will be, let's add something like a callback URL right now. So I'm going to just say callback underscore URL, which is really a URL that the customers they kind of get redirected to after they make successful payment. And that is going to be, let's say that we're going to create a file. So this is going to be, let's say, http:// this is going to be the file name, or the folder was called the cURL. And within this cURL, we're going to create a file that we're going to call, let's say, verify.php, which is a file that we have not really created, but we could do that in a moment. So, and if you really did not understand what this URL, callback URL is, after we make payment, the page, if we don't have this, the page is just going to sit right there. In fact, I'm going to comment that out so that you see what I mean. So I'll take away this last comma right here, save this web page, and let's go ahead and try this and see what that is going to give to us right now. Okay, so let's see what that is going to give to us. So if I go back to my development environment, I'm in my browser, and I'm going to change this URL from post to pay. So this is going to be pay.php. So if I refresh this web page right now, and congratulations, we get status to be true. Now the message says authorization URL has been created, and this is the authorization URL, guys. Alright, so and if you look at here, we have so if we copy this authorization URL right now, and we go to a new tab, paste that in, and if you try to view this file or kind of surf through this particular URL, you're going to notice that it's going to open up the payment page for us, and with the email address that is associated with that script, and even the amount. And congratulations, if you look at this place, this is the email associated with this particular script, and the amount is really what we typed right there, and this is a test mode, of course. So if you want to make this payment, that is really very simple. You have to select any of the cards right here. So you can click on this particular card and then click on pay. So if I do that right now, you're going to see that the payment is going to go through, and you see payment successful, and then yeah, so that payment has really gone through. And if you check the email of that particular person, which is atia.emmanuel@gmail.com, they're going to send the guy a kind of email to verify that he really made that payment. That's just like a receipt. Okay, but before we think about that right now, because I don't even have access to that particular email, but I just use that as an example. So what we're going to do right now, you see the way that I copied this particular email, this particular authorization URL, and copied it to this particular page. We're not going to allow your customers to be doing that. So we want to make sure that we can automatically redirect our customers to come to this payment page, make their payment, and then they can now go back to the redirected web page. Okay, and you also notice that after the payment, it just displayed payment successful, and it did not redirect automatically to the verify page or to the success page. and that is really because I have already commented this particular line out. Let's scroll up to the top of this place. You see this line that I really commented that right now. So it's because I commented that line out. That's why it's not redirecting. So if you want it to redirect, the first thing you need is to make sure that this page, this line is not commented out, and that this page really exists. I'm going to go ahead and create this page with this opportunity right now. So let's go ahead and call that verify.php. And the only thing I want to add in that page right now is just an h1. So I'm going to just say h1, and I'm going to just say something. Let's just say payment successful, just like that. And I'm going to close the h1 right there. And that is that. I'm going to go ahead and save that and go back to my pay. Remember, I just went back to my pay.php, and down here, if I scroll down to the bottom of this page, the first thing that I want to do right now, let me go ahead and comment this line of code out. Sorry about that, guys. So I'm going to go ahead right now and comment this line of code out, and underneath this particular, or before we close this particular coil, one thing that I would like to do right now is to make sure that I convert whatever that is coming to me from paystack, which is saved in this place right now, as an object. So to do that, let me just say convert to JSON object. And to do that is really very simple. I'm going to put that in a variable. So this is going to be called a result, and I'm going to put that. I'm going to use a function called JSON underscore decode, and I'm going to go ahead and pass in this particular variable that contains everything that's coming from paystack, and paste that right here. And I'm going to go ahead and terminate this line of code just like that. Just take a look at that right now. So I have basically converted everything that is coming in from that place to an object, so that I can access everything as an object down here. And the next thing that I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and redirect to the payment page. So to do that, I'm going to just have to use a header redirect in PHP. So to redirect in PHP, we use what we call header, which is a function, and within this particular function right now, I'm going to just enter this constant. So this is going to be location, and where I want it to go right now is going to be what I really want to do right now is to make sure that it normally goes to the payment page automatically, right? So that means I'm going to have to concatenate onto the authorization URL right here. So let me show you the authorization URL again. Remember this particular URL that we copied before now, and that particular URL is saved in this place. So I'm going to copy this particular index, and if I go back to my development environment right now, what I'm going to do now is to concatenate onto that particular variable. So I'm going to add a dot, and the first thing that I need is to pick this result variable, and I'm going to just say result, and with an arrow I'm going to go ahead and paste what I just copied, which is authorization URL. So with this simple line of code, I will be dynamically redirecting all my payers or all the customers to a unique web address where they will have to pay me automatically. So I don't have to always come to this particular web page, copy the URL and paste. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this page right now. If I save this page and I go back to my web browser and run this page again, we're going to see that it's going to automatically take me to the payment page. And I have a problem right there. It says syntax error, unexpected callback URL. So let's see why that error is coming right there, line 8. And that's probably because I did not remember to add a comma before that one, I think. And that is true. So I didn't add a comma right here. So I'm going to add a comma here and save this. So the last item of the array shouldn't have a comma. So I'm going to leave it like that, and if I save, go back to my browser and refresh again, and we still have another error that says, okay, we typed head instead of header. So this should be online, the last line. So this should be header, not head. So PHP is called header like that. So if we save that, and we'll go back to our browser, and it should bear with me because I don't have the code in front of me as I'm typing all of these that I'm typing right now. Okay, that's why I'm kind of fond of making quite a lot of mistakes right here. So I didn't plan the code out. So I'm just coding naturally like I used to do, without having to write any code down. So we have another error that says authorization URL. This one is on line 48. That should be coming from here. Well, if you look at this right now, this looks you know what, let's take a look at let's go back, let's just go back right now, and for us to really grab this authorization URL, what is that authorization? You know what I'm going to do right now is to, let me go ahead, I'm going to comment this particular line out again, and if I comment that out, I want to uncomment this line. Let me find out what this problem really is. So if I print out the array, if I button up the array, from there I will find out where the error is coming from. So if I save this page and go back to this place and refresh, and then I have this to be returned. This is authorization URL. Okay. See what happens. We have data to really guide it's an array that guides all of this. So it is within the data that we have authorization URL, access code, and then the reference. Okay, so you need to access data first before you can grab onto this particular one called authorization URL. So that's basically where the problem is coming from. So if we go back to our development environment, and let me comment this out again, and then uncomment this particular line, and we need to grab onto data right here. So we're going to just say data with an arrow like that. So it's basically going to be, after you grab onto data, you can now move from data to that of the authorization URL. So let's save that, and let's give that a shot. Alright, so let's go ahead and then refresh this web page again, and that is moving, and congratulations, as you can see, that really opened up that web page again. And this time around, we didn't have to copy and paste this authorization URL before we can make payment. It's automatically redirected to this page. And if you don't believe that, let's close out this particular one right now and go back. So if we change this to pay.php and we try to sort through that file, it's still going to open up the payment page for us. So as you can see, it has opened it again, and if you pay right now, click on this particular pay, and if that payment goes through, it's going to attempt to redirect, and as you can see, it's trying to redirect right now to the page that we just created that time, which if you look at it right now, we did not really type the URL very well, which we have to correct right now. So let's go back to our development environment, and if you go up to this place, but just understand that that attempted to open the web page. Okay, so this is HTTP, and we need to have a local host somewhere. Okay, so this is HTTP / this is going to be localhost / that. So I guess that this is where the problem is coming from. And alright, so we really need to add that trailing localhost right there before that redirect to work proper. So we're going to have to try that again. So let's go to localhost. This is localhost coil / pay.php. Let's visit this file again, and automatically it will still going to redirect us to the payment page. And if we make payment right now, click on pay, and if that goes successfully, it's going to pass through and it's going to redirect us to that page that I created, that I call the payment successful. And if you look at the URL, it's going to give us the reference key right there. And then yeah, so this is really beautiful. If you got it up to this point, you need to congratulate yourself, and you don't need to bother yourself so much. We're going to go over this again because you know that we're hard coding all of this by ourselves right now, ranging from the customer creation endpoint, talking about this place, how we're creating the customer. What if you want the customers to really fill these things in a form, and you pick them and automatically register them, and then you can also automatically make them go to the payment page and make payments. All right, you can really do that. You definitely can do that. Then in the next one, we're going to take a look at that. So most of these things that we have done today, we are likely going to kind of repeat them in a more proper way. But I just wanted to make sure that you get your hands a kind of a dairy on how to do things of this nature from scratch. Okay, so thank you for watching, and I think that the next thing that we can do now is to maybe if we attempt to look at our transactions table right now, we should be able to see these payments coming. All right, so let's go to transactions right now. And if you look at our transaction, we can see that this particular person have made quite a lot of payment. 1, 2, 3. So 3 successful payments had already come in. Okay, so that is just that. And this particular person, right now, if you check your email, you are going to see that you received some kind of a receipt already. If that email really exists, the person should see some receipts being sent from this particular place to that, this dashboard to that particular person's email address. Okay, so that is just that. And if the owner of the website or the owner of this dashboard, which I'm the owner of this dashboard right now, if I check my own email, I should also have some confirmation of this particular payment just coming to my email. Okay, so that is just that, but I'm not going to bother myself trying to check my own email right now. So that is just what it is right now. And yeah, so I will see you in the next one.